Hi there and welcome to this week's video, which is kindly sponsored by Super Studs. Super Studs are a great product. They're the normal kind of studs that we've used, well, ever since I can remember, which we screw into the shoes, but they've designed them in such a way that they're self-cleaning basically, so you don't have to spend as much time cleaning the holes out in their shoes, which we have specially made. And it saves a lot of time, and it actually makes it safer, because when we use a thing called the tap to clean the holes out, and once they have that in their foot, if they put their foot down, they can break it off and then you've got no stud hole left. And they just screw in much easier, and they have a great selection of studs, and you can order everything online. This week we're having a focus on training that we've been doing. Super Studs have really kindly sponsored our training this season, and it's something that gets neglected, I must say, because we're always on a tight budget. Showing the horse comes first, and feeding the horse, and training kind of gets pushed to the end as far as money's concerned. So it's great that they offered to step in and help us out in that way. We hadn't had a lesson since before Breda last year, and we had one jumping, one dressage, just before Warragam, and we've had 2 this week just before we leave for Jardy. We've got footage from the second of both, which was kindly filmed by Daphne de Costa, which will help illustrate what both trainers were trying to help us with. In the first week's lessons, I'll focus on the dressage first. I wanted to address an issue I was having when we did a downward transition. Although he wasn't necessarily getting heavier in the hand, he was lowering his head and neck quite a lot, and obviously you're going to lose marks on that because it looks like he's heavily on the forehand and relying on the hand. And Nick immediately picked up that he's not truly in front of the leg. So the main issue was we were just walking through trot and walk transitions, and he had to stay in front of the leg, and then we moved on to trot to halt, and we also used to shoulder in a little bit to help engage the hindquarters. We didn't do a great deal else that lesson, or we did focus on the changes a little bit at the end, but that was about it. In our lesson with him this week, we also looked at the lateral work in a bit more depth, really focusing on ways to pick up marks with him and keep him in front of the leg and cut down on the resistance, because he's very quick to let you know if he's finding it difficult and hard work. So it's a question of presenting the best picture that we can. Here's some footage of him working, and with explanations where needed.
Et quand on vient dans les prises, le cheval il doit être mieux dressé, comme dans l'échauffement. Si tu veux, je mets un pas mes épaules, tu sais. Voilà, bien. Et je te mets devant. Tu vas céder devant. Voilà. Céder, trop libre. Dans la transition, il va rester comme ça pour lui maintenant. Voilà. Et de nouveau tout droit. Et en avant. Voilà, nickel. Et de nouveau le reprendre. Mais quand le cheval commence à dormir, voilà, bien, tout droit. Voilà, il te faut l'épaule en dedans. C'est ça. Changer de main comme ça, encore une fois, 10 mètres d'épaule en dedans. À droite, ça va, à la maison, tu vas comme elle, tu vas assez rond. Voilà, comme ça, tu vas arriver à le faire. Voilà, là il lâche. Là il lâche. Voilà.
Good boy.
Là il trotte et il t'accepte devant. Sinon il trotte, mais il se met toujours plus devant. Maintenant, juste simple. Quelques tranquilles sa tête. Comme ça, c'est assez le pied à droite. Comme ça, le pied à droite, on lui va vers la droite. Voilà. Voilà. Moins d'épaule. Voilà, bien. Et Il a carrément droit entre le vestiaire. Regarde, tu changes moins bien, mais c'est...
In our jumping lessons, obviously we had that great help from Louise, so that was fresh in our minds. You know, it wasn't quite such a cold water shock going back to being taught as it had been for the dressage. The good thing is neither trainer contradicts the other. Nicolas, who teaches us for jumping, is also very hot on the flat work, very keen that the horses stay in front of the leg and uphill, and working correctly through their backs. I've been training with him for a couple of, I think it's our third season now with him, and he knows us, he knows what exercises I need to keep my eye in, he knows what exercises William needs to keep him supple and using himself properly over the fences. So, you know, our lessons often follow a similar pattern. The first lesson we did with him was we warmed up in our normal fashion with a placing pole a stride away from the fence, and he built it up to an oxer, and then he immediately sent us off around a course, which he does sometimes, and he really did jump it well. I could feel the positive effects of having been at Louise's. He now, you know, if I sit up and bring my shoulders back, he will come back to me without me having to have a battle with him, and it just means we're that much more likely to leave the fences up. And then in this week's lesson, it didn't start off great. He had us jumping out of trot, and I agree it's a good exercise for us because he really wanted me to bring the horse in close to the bottom of the fence and get him to use himself over the fence, but as you can see, it didn't always go to plan. I completely agree this is a good exercise for the pair of us because I hate jumping from trot, but possibly not just before we leave for Charlotte. So I asked if we could stop doing that exercise and go back to our normal walk with that. And then he had us doing a very interesting and illuminating exercise, which was jumping metre upright on a circle. And it really highlighted that William will throw his weight onto his inside shoulder, especially to the left, just before takeoff, and it really affects me how much say I have over our approach to the fence. It means that he's dominating it and doesn't have to engage his hindquarters. So that was probably the most illuminating thing I've had to do with him for a while. Anyway, we also had to put together a few lines of fences, and he was jumping really well, but he was having issues with the white sand of the place, and he gets very fussy about what the ground looks like, which meant we had a rather rough ride through a double the first time round. But he got better and better as the day went on, and he actually jumped superbly. So anyway, big thanks to Super Studs for helping us with our training this season, and hopefully we're all set for Jardy CIC 3-star this week. Thanks for watching, bye.